Hello, and welcome to this episode of Empowering Your Job Search. My name is Soozy Miller. This episode is brought to you by the Strategic Advisory Board and my company, Control Your Career. I am a certified behavioral analyst and an executive career coach. I work with executives who feel stuck in their situation. I coach executives to control their career by giving them tools and methodology to land their next opportunity and then to control their overall career path until they don't want to work anymore. So there are a lot of very worried people out there about an employment gap on their resume. So an employment gap means that you haven't worked for maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years. And the employment gap is not as big a problem as people think it is. And you can diminish it by making sure there's value add and leadership impact in your resume. So when you make sure that there's value add and leadership impact on your resume, that will forgive a lot of the other problems that you see on the resume. And what I mean by that is if you have an employment gap, let's say it's 3 months, let's say it's 6 months, let's say it's a year, or maybe even 2 years, then when you emphasize the value add that you bring, when you emphasize your achievements, when you emphasize your accomplishments, when you emphasize the impact that your leadership has had on companies, that hiring team is going to be less likely to care about your employment gap because there's so much value and so much benefit that you bring to the company that they're not going to care that much about the employment gap. Now, I have worked with clients who had 10-year gaps. I worked with one investment banker and a scientist. Both had 10 years where they did not work. Well, the scientist took 10 years off to raise her children, and the investment banker took 10 years off to be a professional sailor. So they both had these big gaps. And what I was able to do is ask them questions so that we could bring out the leadership impact that they had had in the jobs before and after that 10-year gap. And they ended up getting very good jobs. So what you perceive as a huge flaw and a glaring problem may not necessarily be or look like that to the hiring team. So you want to make sure that your value add and leadership impact are clear so that it will take away from or take the focus away from any other issues you have on the resume. A 3-month gap, a 6-month gap, a 1-year gap, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on how you present it on your resume. And besides, the hiring team and recruiters are well aware of the effects of COVID. They are aware that people took time off between 2020 and 2022 to look after sick family members, or maybe they lost their job as a result of COVID. So they are aware of that 2-year gap during which people had problems. So you don't have to worry as much about those years. The hiring teams can be very forgiving if you show your value add and your leadership impact. There could be a lot of things that you think are a problem on a resume, and the hiring team will completely overlook them because there's so much other good stuff on your resume. So thank you for watching today's episode of Empowering Your Job Search. I hope this was helpful to you and your career. If you need further information, just click on the link in the description and I'll be glad to talk to you further about all of this. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to this channel so you get valuable daily updates. I'll talk to you soon.